Hey everybody, Kerry Schafer here, also known as Carrie King, with another episode of Creativity Quest. And we're live today, or well, not exactly live, but we're on camera, which is always extra fun. So I have for you today Karen Kinney. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Karen is an artist and an author, which is an amazing combination. I always wonder about that, so we can talk about that a little bit too. I always think of art as being something that's on the right brain, and putting words together is kind of on the left, although writers, we're also right brain because the ideas and all. So it's an interesting flows that I'm fascinated by. So we'll probably talk about that. Going forward, I just want to let you know that Karen has written a lovely book about creativity, which I strongly suggest you read. There's some really great food for thought in there, and we will talk about some of it today. It's called The Reluctant Artist. And I was fascinated by that title because, as you know, there is always this kind of push-pull between, I love writing, it's the biggest thing in the world to me, it's my gift, it's why I'm here, and yet there are those times where it's the last thing I want to do in a day. So there's that interesting dynamic that we all come up against at some point in time. And so actually, let's just start with that, with the title of the book. Is that where that title came from? Is it personal for you? Where did you come up with The Reluctant Artist as a title for your book?
Yeah, well, it kind of popped into my head like a lot of creative ideas do. But I think it resonated with me, partly because of what you said. There is this push-pull dynamic with the arts or, creating anything. And I think when you're really pursuing like a passion, so if it's writing or if it's music or art or whatever, there's like the fun joy side of it, but then there's the like, oh, this is hard, or like I have to persevere. I think reluctance to me felt like a more accurate description of like, not every day do I get up like thrilled to just dive in to my work. I mean, some days I do, but it's not always an easy process. So to me, reluctant kind of highlighted that a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And so, and this is actually one of my all-time favorite questions to ask all the creative people I meet. So for you, when you get into that place where you are feeling reluctant to get to your work, let's talk about you personally, rather than getting into all the theory right now. But what is your do you have one favorite preferred method to get you into work on a day where you're maybe not feeling the love?
Yeah. For me, it always works if I can just trick myself into saying like I just have to sit down for like a really short time increment, like say 10 minutes or something.
Right.
Because that is really manageable in my mind. Like, oh, anyone could do anything for like 10 minutes. And then, most often it will like turn into like a longer creative session. So that works really well for me.
Right, so that's starting small, and that's something I talk about actually a lot. That's one of the Kaizen Muse creativity coaching principles, is that tiny little steps. Sometimes we take it even smaller. Like if somebody's really blocked, I will ask you to just go, open your laptop and open a file.
Yeah, right. I like that. You can
create a document.
You need to go. Exactly. I think that's great. Yeah.
Right. So another point of curiosity then. So writing and doing art. So I'm guessing those are very different processes for you and feel really different. Is that accurate or kind of?
I would say they're actually more similar than you would think, because
really?
For me anyway,
because
they're both like drawing from a creative well. They're both like idea based, So I think, when it comes to like putting a book together or something like that, that does get much more into left brain, like you were mentioning earlier. But the creative process behind it, I actually find similar, because it's like I'm, listening. I'm trying to kind of partner with what's wanting to come out,
right.
Whether it's words or so. Yeah, the process feels similar, but like the end product, I think for like writing, there becomes a lot more left brain because of editing and all of that.
Yeah. So I love that you just said listening, and that is something that came up in the book. So first question I have to ask, if you've read Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Yes, I have.
And so, because a lot of what you've said already kind of sounds a little bit familiar, like the two of you are along a similar path, and that the ideas come to you and that you're listening. And this is the thing it took me forever to figure that out though, as a writer. I was I've always been a pantser, so I was always kind of letting the story go, but the art of actually listening to what it wants to be, rather than insisting that I put something on it that it doesn't want to be, is something that I still have to remind myself to do.
Yeah. No, totally. That's hard for me too, because I'm a very I actually have a lot of left brain for an artist, which means I really like completing tasks. Like I like getting things done and wrapped in a nice little package, you know, but that's not always, it's not always gel with the creativity very well. So it's a challenge for me too, to listen and just be in the unknown and all these things and not rush in with like, here's the end goal and here's like how it's going to wrap up. And I'm much stronger at that side of life. So yeah, it's a growth edge for me too.
Yeah, well, I think for all of us, and it's interesting because it's funny because I told you we were probably going to talk about the spiritual thing last, but I love going down the rabbit holes when they pop up. So really right now, what I'm feeling like is what we do in our art really tends to be awesome learning lessons for what's going on in the rest of our lives. So it's almost like, you know, for me, it's trust. Learning to trust my characters and trust my process and trust my plot. Those are very big things for me in writing. And if I take that out into the rest of my life, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Trust is a big thing for me. So I think the whole writing, almost as a writing our art is a place, a melting pot, an alchemy spot where we learn and grow, and then it might maybe expand out into the, you know, outer life. I kind of have thoughts about that. So thoughts?
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a lot of principles I think that you learn with creativity are applicable, you know, like the trust, like you said, you know, not knowing necessarily where something's going and being okay with that, you know, surrendering to the process, like all these things I think can be totally applied to like daily life. I mean, I don't always feel like applying them, but they're there. It's possible principles to apply.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and listening, like you said, and the, you know, showing up even when you don't feel like it. That's a big one.
Exactly.
And the, you know, interestingly enough, taking breaks or the pause thing, that is one of my biggest challenges, allowing that. And so I really do want to spend some time talking about that because I know I'm not the only one. And I was struck by that chapter in your book. Really, really excellent, thought-provoking place. It really, I mean, right now I have a writer friend who is dealing with her mother just died, and it was under very difficult circumstances, and she messaged me and said, I don't know how, you know, I can't write. And I'm like, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay not to write, but I don't allow that for myself either. It's a thing I know. It's trying to do that pause thing. So I would love to hear from you and our listeners hear a little bit from you about your thoughts about that, and you know how you came to understand the importance and maybe how it's applied in your own life.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something I choose easily either. I much prefer to be, you know, getting things done. It's more my personality, but I think just life kind of forces you to do it, like you said with your friend, or when life events happen or something difficult is going on. I mean, life gives us lots of opportunities to like learn how to take a break, because yeah, I think it's just that it's part of being alive, and then B, I think it is a chance to grow into that. And what I like about being willing to take a pause, and it's usually because it's necessitated by something happening in life, but it challenges, I think, this cultural notion we have, which I don't agree with. I mean, it's a very American one, that you have to be constantly on, like all the time. And it's like, well, nobody is on all the time. I think nature is a good example of that, right? It's why we have seasons and why, you know, plants bloom and then they die and then they bloom. Like, I think nature itself kind of illustrates this whole point of like, it's good to have cycles of rest. And then because then next time you're producing, it can be like an idea that germinated during the rest time. So it's actually kind of necessary, but I don't think our culture it's not good, the culture at allowing it, because it doesn't affirm it,
Our culture doesn't allow or affirm, but the thing about the roots in your chapter, the wonderful, great roots of the tree that supported that period of dormancy, tell us about that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. No, it's just kind of a picture analogy of this big tree I'd seen on one of my walks during an off season I was having, a pause time. And the roots, you could see them before they went into the earth. And so I was imagining what they were like underneath the tree, like supporting the tree, and how roots kind of spread out and create this base from which the tree can grow. And just in my mind, I was like, oh, that makes sense, for what could possibly be happening in these, seemingly off periods in our life, that they're not actually totally off. Things are germinating inside of us. You just can't see what's germinating, and it might take time for it to surface. So that just helped me be more okay with like, okay, it looks like I'm doing absolutely nothing, but perhaps something deeper is happening inside of me. But I think there's truth to that. And but it's definitely hard to live out. It's hard for me to do that.
Well, it is, and I think you addressed this at the very beginning of the book too. There's this fear that we all have that if we aren't writing, and if we stop writing, if we stop painting, if we stop arting, whatever kind of art it is that we're doing, it's going to somehow go away. And it's like, for me, it goes all the way back to a very religious upbringing. And there's this story in the New Testament of the talents. So, this hard taskmaster gives 3 of his servants talents. One of them gets 10, one gets 5, and one gets 1. Now, talent back then, in case you're not up on your Bible stories, was a measure of money. And there's all different ways of looking at this parable now, but the way it was given to me was that basically if you don't take care of something that you're trusted with, you're like a bad person and gonna go to hell, right? So it was the guy with the 10 talents, he did a bunch of stuff with it, and the master was really happy. 5 talents, same, master was really happy. The 1 talent guy was like, oh, I'm not really, I didn't get very much, I'm afraid, I'm just gonna bury it in the ground. And as a young not writing writer, I had always in the back of my mind this fear, is like, oh no, I have buried my talent, and now I'm gonna like totally, I have screwed my life over forever, right? It was there.
Condemnation is raining down on you. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a powerful, motivator.
Right, yeah, well, it wasn't motivating though. That fear is never a good motivator for art, I don't think.
It's a bad motivator. Yeah, it's not a good place to create from at all. No.
So I think coming back to this idea that, yes, we want to be showing up to our work and our creativity on a regular basis, but it doesn't go away. It's not going to just it's not going to punish us and never come back.
Right. No, I think that's a great point. I think, it makes me think of I wonder if that story you told, the parable, or how much of that ties into the, Protestant work ethic and all these things in the States where it's like kind of this whip to your back constantly. And it is driven by fear. And that's definitely not the place you want to create from. And like what you mentioned earlier about trust, I think that's where we have to bring in the trust again, be like, okay, obviously if you're a writer or an artist or whatever, you have it within you, and it's a core part of who you are, so it can't go away. So even if there are periods where it's doesn't appear to be active, it's still there. And it's good to remember, because there are times for me where I feel really disconnected between art and writing both. If I'm focusing more on one and not the other, I can start to feel that way. And right now I'm doing a lot more writing, so I'm like, oh, if I ever have to make another art thing again, can I? I'm like, okay, yes, I can, but I have to reconnect. But it's in me,
Right. I do think it makes it harder. If you've been away for a while, it sometimes it can make it more difficult to come back because you're a little rusty and things maybe are not flowing as smoothly and all of that. But I think if we can have the trust that it's okay, not beat ourselves up that we've not been doing what we want to be doing.
Right. Yeah, I think permission, and I think being gentle. I think my inner artist or inner writer responds a lot more to gentleness than to a harsh, punitive kind of, So it's okay, if my goal is to elicit creativity, I think I'd be better served by learning to be a bit more gentle, because no one likes being reprimanded or held at gunpoint or something. You must produce, it's like, wow.
Right. It's okay, so I just got this image. This just came to me. So it's the Stephen King movie, Misery.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I've never seen the movie, I've never read the book, but I know this part. So Stephen King wrote a book about a writer who had a rabid fan who coaxed him into her farmhouse. I don't know how he got there. I've not read that part. But anyways, she totally immobilizes him, breaks his legs, keeps him there, and makes him write every day. Right?
That sounds awful. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No one wants to sign up for that. I'm sorry.
No.
Pay me all the money in the world. No, thank you.
No. And so when we're doing that to ourselves, when we're beating ourselves up like that, then why would we want to show up, right? So
yeah. So it is counterintuitive. I think this whole like, the harsher I am with myself, the more I'm going to elicit. I'm like, I don't even know if that's true psychologically, you know? It doesn't make sense.
No.
Yeah.
No. So I want to ask you about this, about what kind of art you do. So, and have you written what are you writing now? Because you wrote this book. So let's one question at a time. I know if I ask two, that makes it easy. So
sure.
Tell us about the types of art that you're engaged in, just for fun.
Well, the most recent kind of art that I've done is more installation art out of like book covers. I use a lot of book materials in my work, and so I kind of will deconstruct actual books, physical books, and then recreate kind of like it's from. I know, it's terrible. It's like sacrilegious, but so that's the latest in terms of my art evolution. And then,
is there somewhere where people can see that?
Right now, no, because like the last year and a half I've been living here. I'm actually living in Mexico. And since moving here, I've been focusing a lot more on writing. So both the second book I'm working on and doing some freelance projects. So there is, I'm trying to think. Yeah, right now there isn't any actual physical place where people could view my art. You can see things on my website.
Okay. Great. And let's mention the website now. I'm going to mention it again later, but you can find out more at KarenKinney.com. So it's easy. It's Karen, KarenKinney.com. So if you go there, you find out all kinds of stuff. I mean, your social media links are probably there as well. So that's the easiest thing. Just go check out her website. So what are you writing? What are you working on writing? What's in the process?
Well, I'm working on a second book. And this book is kind of a combination of creativity and spirituality. I mean, some of that came into the first book, but this book, it's going to be like a book of meditation, so short little chapters, and on a wide range of topics. So there will be some on the creative process again, but then also some chapters on like, transitions, how do we navigate change, gratitude, abundance, like, kind of just a series of meditations. So.
Oh, that sounds absolutely lovely. What a lovely idea. So I believe in all kinds of meditations, and I do recommend it, by the way, for everybody, even if it's just at 1 minute or 5. I'm not into long periods of meditation, although I do love guided meditations. But having them something that you can read that's going to take you into, a mindset place. It's intention. Something I really believe in is that when you sit down to work, you can choose how you want to feel, and you can do things to bring you into that space. It's not just I don't feel creative today. You can do a lot to put yourself in that frame of mind. So this just sounds brilliant. So just short little meditations on different
topics. And I'm keeping them short too on purpose, because I think if people are going to go into a reflective kind of mode, I mean, it's easier to do that with something kind of succinct. I don't need to write like a treatise on a topic.
Right. Well, and then we could even take your meditation and expand on that in our own journals. Take the meditation to the page then, which is another awesome thing to do, is just journal on something.
Right. No, actually, that's a really good idea. Have like a writing prompt or something. Yeah. So it's kind of information, but it's fun. The writing, there are a couple public art projects I might do later this year. But the writing is really where I'm feeling the creative flow right now. So I want to hone in on that. So
yeah, I love that. And that's something I've been really trying to pay attention to, is going where the flow is instead of fighting that.
Right. No, totally. Like I might recognize the flow and then be like, oh, but maybe I should be doing this over here. I should do
Right.
that. Like, why am I doing this? Why not just go with like what's
Right.
naturally coming? Maybe that means something and I should pay attention, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. I love that, paying attention and getting so much more done. Like if I have a day where, I'm really fighting my writing and the creative thing I want to do is go do something else. If I go do the other creative thing, often I'll get that brilliant idea. Then it's like, oh,
Yes.
now I
Exactly.
know. And then the writing flows again. So not suggesting that, avoiding your work just because you don't feel the love, which doesn't tend to work well. But
Right.
if there is creative flow somewhere, yeah, I love that feeding.
Yeah. And then they intersect. I like that what you said. It's like, oh, okay, something that might seem totally unrelated, but I'm feeling a spark, and then you go do it, and then you're right. Then an idea for what you're trying to work on
Right,
comes. Oh, I like that.
right, right. I love that. Now you are teaching a couple of classes or something. So you want to
Yeah.
tell us about that? What's going on with that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I'm going to be co-teaching a class actually in February at there's a writers conference here in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico.
Ooh, a writers conference in Mexico?
Yes,
Pay
yeah.
attention, guys. San Miguel. What's it what's it called in case anybody wants to make an excuse for a trip to Mexico?
Yeah, well, it's just called like the writers conference, but
The
if you
writers conference?
Googled writers conference San Miguel,
Okay.
their website will come up.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've been doing it every year for, I think this is their 15th year. And
Lovely.
there's all kinds of like, well-known authors they bring in to do keynote talks. And then there's all kinds of workshops they have on the side that it's like electives you can sign up for. So I'm going to teach a workshop with actually a writer friend of mine who's from LA. And her name is Karen Gutman, and it's on the creative process. So yeah, we're going to teach that. It's in February, like the middle of February.
How fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh, Mexico, February.
Time to come down,
I'm already planning a big trip this year, so it's okay. I am going to, it's May though, not until May, but I'm going to Japan in May. So I have a writer friend who lives in Japan. So we're getting this off the tourist beaten path, amazing trip of a lifetime that I'm really excited about. And I've decided I'm going to set, for those of you who know about my Dead Before Dying books, the next Shadow Valley book is actually going to be in Japan. So Maureen, who is rude and abrasive, is going to like a country where politeness is hugely valued. And anyway, there's all kinds of really creepy, weird paranormal things there. So I think it'll be super fun. So
yeah, fascinating. So it'll be partly like a writing trip for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Why not? I can double it up, right? Double the fun. So that'll be super cool. Before we go, I do want to just kind of hint at you guys and tweak your interest that I have something really super fun coming up on the podcast front that's new and awesome. And if you want to make sure that you get in on the first news about that, you want to get on my newsletter. So hop over to writeattheedge.com and then go /inbox magic, and you'll sign up for the newsletter and you'll get like the first little bit of this that I release out to everybody, because I'm excited. I think it's gonna be super fun. Other than that, anything else that you want to share with everybody before we let you go, Karen? I'll remind everybody about your book here in 1 second, but anything that you would like to mention that we didn't get to?
Yeah, I think just as like an encouragement to like anyone listening, to really always value what they're doing. I think it's we didn't really get to touch on commerce, but
and that's okay. All right, we're gonna take a little bit longer. This is important. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, because the arts aren't always easily tied to consistent money. Right. It's hard to sometimes value that, just because the culture we live in is determines the value of everything by money. That's seemingly like the only criteria. So it's important, I think, to really know your own value in the creative work you're doing, regardless of the ebb and flow of the money cycle. So that was what I wanted to share. But do you want to talk a bit about? Yeah, and
it's really important. It's like, I'm going to have to admit, when I was reading that chapter, I had a little bit of me, because I'm a professional working writer, doing a little bit of twitching. Yeah. So Karen suggests in her book that, commerce, money connected to your art can be not so good for your art. And I think we all know that that's true, here.
Mhm.
At the same time, as artists, we want to be able to do what we want to do full time and not have to have a day job. So
Yeah.
there's that conflict between how do I find the path to stay true to what my art wants and is asking of me, and still maybe, be able to support myself from it.
Right. And I think it totally is a tension. And I think it's great just to know you have options. Like I think whether it's something you write or a book that you write a series of because they're doing really well, or like, a particular art piece you make that say interior decorator wants like 20 of them or something like that. I think you can have different outlets. Like I think you can have like the work that is maybe more commercially successful and do that because you need commercial success. But then I think it's just important for the creative spirit to be allowed an outlet of creativity that doesn't have the pressure of having to generate money. Only because I think the most inventive things often don't have mass appeal. I mean, honestly, like the things that have more mass appeal, sometimes they can be super inventive and creative, and other times they're not. Like think of like a Hollywood, I think I used that in the book, example of a Hollywood blockbuster that's kind of special effect and all this stuff, but the acting's terrible.
Sure. Well, and there's all books like that too, that those of us who take our writing very seriously and we look at the sometimes top of the bestseller list and go, wait, what? Right?
How did that happen? Yes. So I don't know. I think it's important to have both because there is always a tension, and I think they don't always marry well. The whole I'm just going to be a creative spirit and just make exactly what I want. It doesn't matter if people want it versus the like people just having something that does sell well. So sometimes it's okay just to let them be two different things, and you can have both.
I love that. Actually, I love that a lot. I think that's a beautiful idea. So that you are always allowing that bit of unfettered, free creativity to flourish somewhere that would, that feeds our souls.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't die, but then there's nothing wrong with having something people want. I mean, that's great. I think that's like every writer's or artist's dream. It's
right.
I want what I do, so.
Mostly, I heard, and I'm not going to name any names or any books right now, but story that I heard. There is a writer who considers herself a serious writer and has written literary stuff and had a huge success, and immediately was very disturbed by the fact that she had written something successful, feeling like she must have somehow failed her art somehow by writing something with that much mass appeal. Right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, fascinating people's mentalities with money, and I mean there's a lot to be said just about that, just how you even look at money and what it that's really interesting. Right.
It's funny, and that's kind of why I it's funny I was avoiding this commerce because I told you that I wanted to talk about it, and then I kept going around it. It's like it's such a huge topic. We could probably do a whole hour-long podcast just talking about that, and maybe we should do that down the road, because it is a big issue. I know for writers especially. I mean, I know writer friends who sit down and instead of writing what comes to them, look at the market and think about what's been successful, what's been selling. Can I write that? How, I can't make myself do that. Personally, for me, if I want to be miserable, I'll go back to my day job.
Right. Well, see, that's it. Like, I think for me, it's like creativity is like a life-giving source for me.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, like, if say nothing I was making was selling or nothing else, I'd rather like have like the day job and then to let creativity, to not put that pressure on it. But other people are different. Other people are really motivated or in a good way by like just studying the market and letting that drive what they create. So there's room for all of it. I think that's the thing. Like, be conscious in your choice of what it is. There's room for all of it. Just don't fall prey to a script that's not you. That would be
that authenticity thing. I love that. And I think my way through it, I mean, I have some books. My books are supporting me right now, and I love that. And when I sit down to write a new one, I think about, what would I love to write that might actually appeal to readers and make money at the same time? That's my way of dealing with that. And I've found that so far, knock wood, has been working really well for me. So, and then I have my Kerry Schafer books, like the Shadow Valley books, that are pure right now, act of love and faith, because who knows, maybe they'll take off, right? Some of you totally love them. So it could happen. You never know. That's the thing too. So faith.
Yeah.
It all comes back to that. Well, this has been awesome, Karen. Thank you so much. And thank you to Lainey, wherever you are, for hooking us up.
Shout out to Lainey. Yeah, for connecting us.
Yeah,
thank you. It was great to chat with you. So
that was fun. So look up Karen's book, The Reluctant Artist. It has some really awesome information that will be extremely helpful for your creative journey. And then check out her website. Again, that's KarenKinney.com. You can look at the show notes to get links if you are having trouble spelling or whatever. And sign up for my newsletter if you're not already, if you want to get in on all the latest gossip and news. Okay? All right.
Great.
Thanks, Karen. We'll see you all soon. Go do something creative.